In 1958, the most powerful government on earth told its people that the harvest had never been better. The fields were full. The granaries were overflowing. China was winning. It was a lie. And that lie, repeated by officials, stamped into government reports, broadcast on state radio, would become the deadliest act of deception in all of recorded human history. Not a war, not a plague, not a natural disaster. A lie. Between 36 and 55 million people died. Depending on which historian you trust, the number may be even higher. Most of them were ordinary farmers, the very people growing the food that was being taken from them. And for decades, the world didn't know. Because the government didn't just hide the famine. They hid the dead. This is the story of what China's rulers did, and what they refused to stop, even when they knew exactly what was happening. In 1958, Mao Zedong launched what he called the Great Leap Forward. The plan was simple and total. China would industrialize overnight. It would outproduce Britain in steel. It would surpass the West within a generation. Every village, every farm, every family, everyone had a role. Farmers were pulled off their land and assigned to backyard steel furnaces. Their tools, the iron plows, the cooking pots, the gates of their homes, were melted down to meet production quotas. Communal kitchens replaced private cooking. Everyone would eat together now. The state would feed its people. At first, the kitchens were generous. There was food. People ate well, believing the abundance would last. It lasted 3 months. Here is what the government knew that ordinary villagers didn't. Every province in China was competing to report the highest grain output numbers to Beijing. Because reporting failure meant punishment. Reporting success meant promotion. So the numbers were fabricated. Massively. Grotesquely. Provinces reported harvests 2, 3, 5 times larger than reality. One county in Hunan claimed to have produced 100,000 pounds of grain per acre. The actual yield was around 800 pounds. Beijing believed the numbers, or chose to. And based on those fictional surplus figures, the government continued to export grain to the Soviet Union and other countries, continuing to honor trade agreements while its own people starved. The grain wasn't just being withheld. It was leaving China, on trains, across borders, while 55 million people had nothing to eat. Famine arrived differently in different places. In some villages, it crept in slowly, thinner soups, smaller portions, children going quiet. In others, it collapsed overnight. Granary doors locked, rations cut to almost nothing, farmers too weak to harvest the crops that remained in fields, watching grain rot on stalks they no longer had the strength to cut. People ate bark. They ate grass, boiled leather, ground corn husks into paste. Local officials who reported the famine were accused of being right-wing saboteurs and enemies of the revolution. Some were beaten, some were imprisoned. One man, a senior party official named Peng Dehuai, wrote a private letter to Mao in 1959 telling the truth. That people were starving, that the numbers were false, that the country was in crisis. Mao read the letter. Then he publicly humiliated Peng, stripped him of his position, and had him imprisoned. The famine continued for 3 more years. 36 million, 45 million. Some scholars say 55 million. The number changes depending on who is counting, which archives have been opened, which provincial death records survived. The Chinese government's official position, maintained for decades, was that the famine was caused by natural disasters and Soviet pressure. Bad weather, foreign interference, unfortunate circumstances. Not policy, not deception, not a man who chose not to stop it. The word famine itself was erased from official language. What happened was called 3 years of natural disasters, a passive phrase for something that was anything but passive. It was not until the 1980s that Chinese scholars, working quietly, carefully, in fear, began to compile the real death toll from provincial records. Yang Jixing was one of them. A senior journalist at China's official state news agency, Xinhua, he spent 13 years traveling to provinces, interviewing survivors, reviewing burial records, cross-referencing population data. His book, Tombstone, was banned in China. It was named for the gravestone he built for his own father, who starved to death in 1959 in a county with a locked granary full of grain. His father had eaten bark, then dirt, then nothing. He died weighing almost nothing, watched by a son who didn't know, couldn't know, because no one was allowed to say what was happening out loud. Yang Jixing's book put the death toll at 36 million. Other scholars put it higher, much higher. Today, in China, the Great Famine is still largely unpublishable. Survivors are aging. The ones who lived through it are in their 70s, 80s, 90s. Many have never spoken about it publicly, not because they forgot, but because speaking was never safe. In some villages, entire family lines were erased. Parents, children, grandparents, gone within the same season. There are no national memorials, no official day of remembrance, no state apology. The mass graves are unmarked. Fields were plowed over them. Roads were built over them. Cities grew over them. 55 million people. And most of the world has never heard their names, never heard their story, because the lie did not end with the famine. The cover-up is still running. What you have just watched is one of the most suppressed chapters of the 20th century. Not suppressed by war, not suppressed by time, suppressed by decision, by design, by men who chose silence over accountability and called it stability. There are chapters of this story that we have not yet told you. We haven't told you what happened to the officials who tried to save their villages by hiding grain, and what was done to them when they were caught. We haven't told you about the regions where the death rate reached 20% of the entire population in a single year. We haven't told you what the survivors found when they went looking for their families. We haven't told you how the cover-up was maintained, how the archives were sealed, and who is still fighting, right now, in 2025, to keep these records locked. Those videos are coming. But here's what you can do right now. Share this video. Not because we asked you to, but because 55 million people died and most of the world is still eating breakfast without knowing their names. Sharing this is the smallest possible act of witness. Drop a comment below. Tell us a piece of history, any chapter, any country, any atrocity that you believe has been buried and deserves to be told. We read every single one. Some of your suggestions have already become our most watched videos. And if there is a story you grew up hearing, a story your grandparents told you, or a history your country doesn't teach in schools, drop it below. Because the truth doesn't need permission. It just needs someone willing to say it out loud. And we're not done.